Gwyneth Paltrow, never again. I've roasted Gwyneth Paltrow. I've also explained to you the various aspects of the trial demonstrating her narcissism. But here we go back in time from a report from Dylan Jones of the Times newspaper that provides you with further evidence of what she is. Jones writes, "It was a long time ago, so perhaps I should forgive her. After all, she was only 25 at the time. I could simply put her behaviour down to the arrogance of youth. No, it's the arrogance of her narcissism. Although her attitude still rankles with me. This was 1998, and Gwyneth Paltrow was filming Shakespeare in Love at Shepperton Studios in Surrey. I was working at the Sunday Times, and was going down to the location to interview her for a cover story for the Sunday Times magazine. This was a relatively simple assignment, something I had suggested as I thought it would be fun. Also, the film was already hot and was destined to be a critical and commercial success. It was both. And so, one day, in late spring, I got on a train and went down to interview a woman who was already destined to be a major movie star. But what a disappointment she turned out to be. The portrait painted by mainly female writers of Gwyneth during her Goop era has been largely positive, but that was not the person I encountered, not at all. Over the years, I have become accustomed to the bad behaviour of people in the entertainment industry. By that I mean agents, publicists, writers, photographers, pop stars, sports stars, captains of industry and fashion designers, as well as actors and actresses. When I first bought a house in the country and started socialising with a lot of people who had no interest in my work, some would say, "What exactly do you do all day?" To which I would reply, "I listen to people tell me how brilliant they are. And you know what? I'm a very good listener." I've obviously interviewed other difficult stars. Grace Jones seemed to take offence easily when I first met her. Russell Brand was so rude, I had to ask him to leave an awards show. Noel Edmonds couldn't have been less interested in shaking my hand. Jennifer Connelly was something of a handful. She asked for a limousine with bulletproof glass to get her from her hotel to the Royal Opera House 400 yards away. I found Emma Watson imperious, and the first time I met her, Mariah Carey appeared to be accompanied by more than a dozen bodyguards. Of course, a number of narcissists in that grouping. But in the main, I'd say that most famous people I've met, and I've met hundreds and hundreds, are pretty decent, and usually take the publicity demands of their trade in their stride. And some have earned their reputations simply by being incredibly nice. I defy anyone not to enjoy meeting Paul McCartney, Lionel Richie, Kate Blanchett, John Legend, Charlize Theron, David Furnish, or George Clooney, for instance. Now, interestingly, that grouping there contains some empaths, a couple of narcissists, and a psychopath. Shows also just how well some narcissists and psychopaths can draw people in. The article continues as he explains that Gwyneth Paltrow, however, could not have been less interested in talking to me or the Sunday Times magazine. As I walked into her trailer at Shepperton, she stayed sitting down, crossed her arms, and didn't even say hello. Haughtiness, sense of entitlement. In the space of a few seconds, she managed to let me know that this wasn't going to be a nice experience for either of us, and it wasn't. She uttered nothing but monosyllabic answers, and gave a good impression of someone who'd rather be picking skewers out of her eyeballs than talking to me. Arrogance, haughtiness, lack of accountability for giving an interview, lack of emotional empathy towards the person interviewing her. For me, it was an enervating experience, so after an hour or so, I gave up. When I played the tape later, none of her answers was more than 6 or 7 words long, so as an interview, it was useless. But then I already knew that. So on leaving her trailer, and having not got what I needed for a Sunday Times magazine cover story, I proceeded to interview everyone else on the set. The carpenters, the caterers, the sound guys, the chauffeurs, makeup girls, hairdressers, couriers, anyone I could find who had anything to do with her. I wasn't looking for a particularly negative story, but given Paltrow's unwillingness to talk to me, I already had a suspicion about what I might hear, and I had to get a story somehow. The feedback I got from those around her was not exactly positive. I simply asked everyone I met the same short question. What's she like? Nothing else, nothing supplementary. I didn't imply that I wanted people to be negative. I just said I was writing a feature on her for the Sunday Times. I just wanted to ask the question that we all ask when someone we know meets someone notable. What are they like? And their answers, which were about 70% negative, became the story. So there is evidence that demonstrates our haughty and arrogant nature, which is part of the facade of superiority that she operates, that she sees herself as above other people. And even then, at the beginning of her career, she thought herself as something special, something better than everybody else, that she couldn't even be bothered to be polite. The writer explains that he remembers one of the freelance drivers in particular. When I asked her what Gwyneth was like to work with, she shot back with, "Couldn't tell you, mate. Walks around with her nose in the air, looks like a snotty so-and-so to me." And therefore that's demonstrative, of course, of her haughty attitude, that she sees herself as better than other people, that she sees herself as superior, that she is Gwyneth the Great. And that was it, states the writer. In the end, I reckon she got what she deserved, which is a shame for her. I had actually been looking forward to meeting her, as she was obviously destined for a stellar career, and out of curiosity I wanted to find out what she was like. And I soon found out. I reckon I'm a fairly easy person to charm, states the writer, and if she'd spent half an hour working her magic on me, or even just being polite, no doubt I would have come away thinking Gwyneth Paltrow was a born-again Audrey Hepburn. But she didn't, so I didn't. This article, taken from an interview that took place some 25 years ago, demonstrates that Gwyneth Paltrow has always seen herself as better than everybody else around her. Haughty, dismissive, arrogant, commensurate with the sub-school of narcissist that she is. She believes herself to be kind, but at the same time sees herself as superior, gifted, talented. She is a decent actress. She has clearly got a good eye for business. For anyone that can sell you eggs that you shove up your vag and candles that smell of her vagina and be able to sell them for the amounts that she does, well, she must have something going for her. Nevertheless, ultimately, what you get here is a clear impression, based upon evidence, that she sees herself better than everybody else and doesn't want anything to do with the little people. Something, of course, we saw in the recent trial. Accordingly, her narcissism is at least consistent in showing that she's haughty, dismissive, arrogant, self-absorbed, and sees herself as superior to everybody around her. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.